The introduction of the DCU's Batman is the brave and the bold.
With the downright disastrous box office performance of Supergirl presenting the first snag in James Gunn's DCU, everyone is looking at how this franchise will bounce back. One of the main contenders to possibly aid in doing just that, in my opinion, is The Brave and the Bold, a Batman flick which will introduce the Dark Knight into the DCU. However, ever since its announcement, things have been fairly muted with regards to its progress, with Gunn and co still claiming that they are in the script development phase. I don't think I need to tell you how important it is that Gunn gets this right for the future of the DCU, for which the jury is still definitely out. I think it is a well-known fact that this film is going to be completely detached from Matt Reeves' Batman, which is set under the DC Elseworlds label, meaning there is going to be an entirely new Batman alongside the Bat family, who are also said to be a major part of this project. In this video, I'll be covering everything from the names of the people involved in the project and the comics they are adapting to where it stands in the grand scheme of things with regard to the DCU as a whole. A lot of the things I will be discussing will be speculation mixed with facts, as there is still a lot of mystery surrounding this project. So join me today as I go all guns blazing, pardon the pun, in order to explore everything we know about James Gunn's Batman, the Brave and the Bold. Let's begin. Which Brave and the Bold is this? While calling the film The Brave and the Bold might not mean much to most casual fans, I think it has been a source of confusion for some seasoned DC fans. Let me explain why. Originally, The Brave and the Bold was a comic book anthology for DC Comics that started as a general adventure title featuring various heroes before, I believe, it eventually transitioned into primarily a Batman team-up title in 1967. This anthology ran from around 1955 to 1983, and this has nothing to do with the new James Gunn Batman movie. 25 years later, DC would launch another project with Cartoon Network bearing the same name that ran all the way from 2008 to 2011. I remember growing up with this light-hearted cartoon series inspired by the Silver Age of comics, as it featured Batman teaming up with a new guest hero every episode. Finally, during that same time period, the Brave and the Bold video game would also be released in 2010 for Nintendo's Wii and DS game consoles. If memory serves me right, this was a side-scrolling beat-em-up directly tied to the animated series, which was ongoing during that time. I can see why many DC fans would be confused by the title, because it could mean that the new Batman film is an adaptation of these works that I've mentioned. However, I think it's important to clarify that the new James Gunn Batman movie is a totally different story and doesn't share anything in common with these three well-known DC properties, except for the presence of Batman and the name itself. The movie is set to be part of James Gunn and Peter Safran's rebooted DC Universe continuity. The actual comic it's based on. Despite the fact that the film is not based on any of the above three DC properties, I think you'll be excited to know that James Gunn does draw inspiration from one of the most iconic Batman runs of all time by writer Grant Morrison. However, unlike many other comic book based movies or shows, this film doesn't draw from one singular comic for its plot. Instead, I think it's been confirmed that Gunn will be drawing from key elements of Morrison's era with The Dark Knight. One of the storylines is the Batman and Son arc from 2006, written by Morrison with art by Andy Kubert, and I believe this comic story arc will serve as the initial catalyst for the film's plot. In the comics, Bruce Wayne discovers that he has a biological son with Ra's al Ghul's daughter, Talia, named Damian. Damian was genetically perfected and raised by Talia and the League of Assassins to be a lethal fighter. Owing to circumstances, Bruce is forced to take in this arrogant and violent 10-year-old son, who tries to outright murder Tim Drake to take the mantle of Robin for himself. While this arc establishes the violent and volatile nature of Damian, whom Gunn has called the little son of a bitch assassin murderer that Bruce has to manage, I personally love the new light in which the fans get to see not just Bruce Wayne but Batman as well, as he comes to terms with being a father and learns to be one not just in name. Another major part of Morrison's run is the Batman and Robin comics by Grant Morrison, initially with artist Frank Whiteley, that began in 2009. In this comic, Bruce Wayne's disappearance and assumed death make Dick Grayson put on the mantle of the Bat, with Damian as his Robin. This is the arc where Damian finally learns to truly become worthy of being a Robin, and to follow his father's footsteps instead of his grandfather's. For those of you who are looking to get caught up with some of these plot beats before the movie drops, I have a suggestion for you. Instead of picking up individual comics, there's an all-in-one option, which is Batman by Grant Morrison, Omnibus Volumes 1 and 2, which covers everything that I've just discussed. Gunn has gone on record to say Morrison's Batman run is one of my favourite Batman runs. How Gunn pitched it on day one. No sooner had the dust settled on the bones of the Snyderverse than James Gunn and Peter Safran unveiled the new DCU's Chapter 1 slate on January 31st, 2023, which is when Gunn pitched The Brave and the Bold as a very strange sort of father and son story. Surprisingly, Gunn and Safran were pretty candid about what this new Batman film would feature, which is why I know that it is adapting elements of Grant Morrison's work. In that introductory pitch to the fans, he goes on to say that Batman doesn't know about the existence of his son for the first 8 to 10 years of his life, before they are introduced and Damon is brought into his life. I think from this information, it's obvious that we can rule out this version of Batman being as green as Pattinson's Dark Knight. Nor is he necessarily going to be a veteran like Batfleck. Peter Safran further chimed in, saying this is obviously a feature film and it's going to feature other members of the extended Bat family. Now, this part of the announcement, in my opinion, is actually exciting, because it looks like we are going to be getting members of the wider Bat family in this new film. I'm just wondering how the casual viewer, who knows nothing about the likes of the Red Hood, or even the fact that there have been multiple Robins over the years who have gone on to establish their own identities, will understand who these characters in the Bat family are and get invested in them. I think it's fair to assume that since this film is intended to be part of a greater cinematic universe, they will have time to bed these characters in. However, if they intend to introduce many of them in a meaningful way within a single movie, then I hope James Gunn and co have a stellar script and cast ready to go.
Witty rogue, daring thief, delusional loon.
Christina Hodson finally lands the script. Speaking of strong scripts, it was announced on January 21st, 2026 that Christina Hodson had been tapped to write Batman, the Brave and the Bold. This, as you can imagine, has triggered a massive discourse online between both critics and fans, with many questioning Gunn's choice to hire someone who's remembered more recently for box office disappointments like The Flash 2023 and Birds of Prey 2020. If DC continues to hire her despite these obviously underwhelming offerings, it got me wondering why it is that she still lands these very lucrative deals. Upon further investigation, I found that when you look at her entire filmography, the picture appears to be more nuanced than recency bias would have you and me believing. Though her 2 recent DC projects have been somewhat meh, Hodson did write the script for Bumblebee 2018, which was widely praised and helped reinvigorate the Transformers film franchise. I think with that project, she proved that she has the ability to write a script with heart, humour and grounded relationships within a massive fictional world. Hodson also wrote the script for the Batgirl film that was shelved and was attached to write a Batman Beyond film that remains unproduced. While many fans don't seem to be too confident in her appointment, James Gunn has come out vocally endorsing her and pushing back on the naysayers, saying, "I will only say anyone maligning Christina Hodson's screenwriting skills has never read an actual screenplay by Christina Hodson. I don't think you can judge a writer based on films others directed, as massive liberties are sometimes taken." According to Gunn, Hodson has been a part of the original DCU writers' room alongside the likes of Drew Goddard, Jeremy Slater, Crystal Henry and Tom King from the very beginning. For better or for worse, I think it seems like Gunn will be sticking to his guns with regard to Hodson's appointment as a screenwriter for The Brave and the Bold. Is Andy Muschietti even still directing this? Another name that has been confirmed for a long time as part of the crew put together to bring The Brave and the Bold to life is that of director Andy Muschietti. Now, if you thought the appointment of Christina Hodson as fans worried, let me tell you, that is nothing compared to the negative discourse surrounding the news that Muschietti will be at the helm of this project. However, ever since his announcement in June 2023, when both Gunn and Safran formally introduced him as the film's director, calling him the only real choice to helm the Dark Knight's debut within the DCU, and showcasing great confidence in him, I believe that things might be simmering down a bit on that front. During an interview, Peter Safran almost looked like he was taking a step back, saying that once Hodson finishes the script, they will show it to Muschietti and see if it's a great fit. The fact that he said that last bit would imply that in case it isn't a great fit, Andy Muschietti might not be directing the film after all, which, in my opinion, further implies that despite the confidence they showed him in 2023, his status as the director of the film is not really set in stone, even if they wouldn't explicitly admit it. Further, in 2025, when asked point blank about his involvement in The Brave and the Bold during a promotional event for It, Welcome to Derry, another one of Muschietti's projects, his elder sister, Barbara Muschietti, offered a reserved, "Our intention is yes," while Andy himself acknowledged they couldn't speak on it yet. While most DC fans remember him for the disaster class that was The Flash 2023, Muschietti's true pedigree lies in the horror genre, having directed both the It films from 2017 and 2019, along with Mama from 2013. My guess is that Gunn is hoping that Muschietti's penchant for horror will translate well to depicting a darker Batman story, which could be a hint toward the tone they are going for in The Brave and the Bold. For now though, Andy Muschietti remains the director attached to James Gunn's Batman film until we are told otherwise. Casting rumours and which ones to actually trust. I think it's only natural that when a film of this magnitude is announced, it is bound to generate more than its fair share of rumours and fan castings, as people speculate over which actors will be cast in the roles of some of the most iconic characters in the world. Before I begin this section, I just want to make it clear that there's been no official casting announcement by James Gunn, Peter Safran, or anybody from DC with regard to The Brave and the Bold. However, industry commentator John Campea had claimed that the role of Bruce Wayne had already been quietly filled, saying, "It's not a name I would have guessed." This obviously had the internet buzzing, with many fans immediately zeroing in on Tom Brittney, who had apparently been one of the contenders to be cast as James Gunn's Superman before the role eventually went to David Corenswet. However, I find it highly suspicious that this rumour came out around the same time as the Supergirl film bombing at the box office, making me think it might just be an engineered ploy to distract fans from that film's failure and instead direct their attention to this Batman movie. I also read somewhere later that Campea himself had walked back the claim, which really puts a cloud over his earlier comments. More vague rumours have emerged since then, with some saying that a 3-actor shortlist had been put together in July 2026, though this claim has even less credibility or backing to it. This also includes the rumours that an actor had been cast to play Damian Wayne already, which led to Gunn directly responding on social media, squashing the rumour instantly. He reminded fans that casting discussions would only occur once the script was finalised, even joking about his longtime friend and actor, Michael Rooker, playing the new boy Wonder. My personal favourite so far has been the pictures of Jensen Ackles making the rounds on the internet, claiming that he had been cast as Batman with Matthew Lillard as the primary antagonist. This is obviously fake, yes. The supernatural star has voiced Bruce Wayne across several DC animated films, but I believe it looks highly unlikely that he will be reprising the role on the big screen anytime soon. For now, the waiting game continues. Let's just hope they do a good job with it. Why the release date keeps sliding further away. The Brave and the Bold is not the only Batman film currently whose release date keeps sliding further back, with Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2 now scheduled to be released in 2028. Reeves' Batman sequel was supposed to come out in 2025, then it was shifted to 2026, then again it was delayed until 2027, with the current release date being stated as February 18th, 2028, and even this I don't think is set in stone. I know that the topic of this video is James Gunn's Batman and not Matt Reeves', but allow me to explain why it is important for you to know this information. Due to the fact that Reeves' Batman has been in development for much longer, it is only natural in most instances that it be given precedence when it comes to release timing, which means that I don't think we can expect to see The Brave and the Bold anytime before 2028. While there have been rumours about beef between the two directors due to Gunn's supposed attempt at releasing his movie before the one starring Robert Pattinson, this has been categorically denied by Gunn himself. While addressing the issue with the fans, he said, "I'm dependent on when there's an actionable script ready, so there is no way of me guessing this. Frankly, we're well into Batman 2, and I wouldn't want to cloud the Batsphere until after that." I think that's a smart move, as you don't want people to grow fatigued with the franchise or even get confused with the brand. Finally, I think there is another rumour with some insiders suggesting that DC's Wonder Woman project might actually move into production before The Brave and the Bold, which could make his release date slide even further away. If you go by what Gunn says in that quote, we'll have to first wait and see when Christina Hodson manages to get an acceptable script ready before talking about release dates, and so the waiting game continues. What tone Gunn is even going for? You know, I can't be the only one thinking that the biggest problem with Batman in the DCU might not be the director or the screenwriter, but Gunn himself. I know that Gunn is not going to be directing this project, but as co-head of DC Studios, his influence is going to be pretty substantial on the film, now considering the tone of his films he's been involved in. Aren't they campy, humorous, and filled with colourful characters, both in terms of their personality and design? Now ask yourself, does that remotely sound like something a film involving the Dark Knight should have in it? The good news is that Gunn has ruled out this Batman being a funny, campy version of the character, saying, "I'm not interested in a funny, campy Batman, really." He also further pointed out that every single Batman story has been told while discussing the huge number of Batman stories and portrayals that already exist, which had every single alarm bell within me ringing. It indicates to me that this man isn't truly in touch with the Batman mythos, making him doubly unfit to lead the film, which is why I'm somewhat glad that Andy Muschietti is at the helm and not him. I've already discussed how Muschietti's horror leanings might be a boon for this film, as they might translate well to Batman's usual grim and gothic settings. One thing is for certain, I think it needs to achieve this while creating its own identity apart from Matt Reeves' gritty and grounded Batman saga, and not allowing Gunn to swing it too far into George Clooney and Adam West territory. I think the tone of this film heavily depends upon how much James Gunn is able to restrain himself from interfering with the movie. You might have a different opinion, but that's just how I feel, because I don't want to see Batman doing a dance-off to save the day, or maybe I do. While The Brave and the Bold remains locked in script development for now, with no proper release date having been announced, The rest of DC Studios' Chapter 1 slate seems to be moving ahead. Man of Tomorrow, the next film in Gunn's Superman saga, has already begun filming for a July 2027 release, while Lanterns is set to premiere in August 2026. Peacemaker Season 2 was released in 2025. Even the new R-rated Clayface movie featuring the Batman villain, directed by James Watkins, is set to hit theatres in October 2026. I personally want them to take their time with The Brave and the Bold, because I'd rather have them cook us something delicious instead of a rushed, half-baked box office bomb like Supergirl. Do you have high hopes for the upcoming DCU Batman movie? Share your thoughts with me in the comments below. For now though, it's time for me to say goodbye. I hope to see you soon on the next one. Until then, stay safe and stay marvellous.